but this year you finally made the leap. What shifted?
My love for marketing started to change, right?
Mm.
I was no longer showing up as my true self. Like you would see me, Lysandra, and you go, okay, that's Fel. But at home, I felt like I was a different, I lost, started to lose myself. I don't have to show time it at home. I made a leap when my coaching was interfering, or I would say maybe my corporate job was interfering with my coaching, with my love and my need to transform lives. This is something that you should be doing. This is something that you should be doing. So the more I understood who I was, the more I interacted with people because I did it naturally, right? The more I wanted to do it.
Mhm. What happens when you finally say yes to the version of yourself you've been quietly growing into? Welcome back to the Soul Career Podcast and to part two of our Leadership in Transition series. I'm your host, Lisandra Rickards, and today I'm speaking with Felecia Williams, our newest leadership coach here at Soul Career. For almost 2 decades, Felecia has built a successful corporate career while quietly nurturing her entrepreneurial passions on the side. From launching a fresh food delivery business over 10 years ago to coaching clients after hours, she wore multiple hats before the world saw her as a full-time coach. We'll talk about her long transition from corporate life to full-time coaching, how entrepreneurship has always been a part of her identity, and what excites her the most about this new chapter with Soul Career. Felecia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Lysandra.
It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Let's start right at the edge. At the moment you decided to leave your corporate job and go all in on coaching.
Mhm.
Had a steady, well-respected career for almost 2 decades, but this year you finally made the leap. What shifted?
Oh, wow. So this has been a very long journey. The shift has been a long journey. I have been coaching for, when I looked at the dates, it's almost 7 years actually. So I started this journey maybe 7 years ago, and it started with self-discovery, which allowed me to give narrative to who I was, who I always was, and that was exciting. So I made a leap when it became so loud. It became so loud that I could no longer ignore it. I made a leap when my coaching was interfering, or I would say maybe my corporate job was interfering with my coaching, with my love and my need to transform lives. That's when I made a leap. When I had to sacrifice doing a speaking engagement, when I had to sacrifice training or even coaching someone in the days because I had this commitment in my corporate life. When I had to make that choice, it's the light bulb. That's when it got louder.
Mhm.
And then my real desire to really have balance in my life was I was living contrary to that. So I was doing corporate world. I was a marketing manager. I was working long hours. Um, and I was also coaching. I'm also a mom of two teenagers. I'm a wife. I want time for myself, for my friends. What's going on, Phil? I can do it is contrary to my own values. I was living contrary to my own values. And so that's when I made the choice. I made a choice to say, I have to stop this. And my body told me it was time
Mhm.
because I started to get sick. I started mentally exhausted. If I were to self-diagnose, possibly I would say high functioning depression if I
Mhm.
were to self-diagnose. Because I was operating at the level that I ought to. I'm delivering, I have an expectation to deliver in my corporate job. And I have to deliver because that's one of my values as well, is that if I am doing something, I'm doing it and I'm doing it well, right? Um, And so it was hard because no longer I was aligned. I was now misaligned with who I desired to be and who I was living as.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love that we're starting here because there's so many people, so many of our listeners, so many of our clients that can relate to this moment that you describe and that you were in.
Yeah.
So, but that trigger, pulling the trigger, still can be very hard, even when you have all of these other things going on, including health issues.
Yes.
So, how did you find that courage to pull the trigger?
It was a combination of things. One, I was ready. I've been ready to leave corporate life maybe 5 years properly. Right? I've been resigning since that, right? Um, but my partner at the time, he just wasn't ready yet. And we were growing a new family. And we were investing in different things and we just had other things going on in our lives, and he just wasn't ready, you know?
Are investing in real estate.
Real estate, exactly, right? And most that has always been our goal and our dream was to invest in real estate, right? And so we were really focused on that. And so the years before just was not right. It wasn't time. And I think the moment when he realized, when I spoke about how I was showing up, I was no longer showing up as my true self. Like you would see me, Lysandra, and you go, okay, that's fair. But at home, I felt like I was a different, started to lose myself. I don't have to show time it at home, right? They know who I am and I show up as myself at home, right? And so just when he saw me and he's like, no, this is enough. It's
Wow.
enough, and I agreed it was enough. And in that moment, I didn't even second guess it. I didn't think twice. I said, okay, I'm doing it this week. And
Wow.
this is right after the New Year's. So it was going to be a whole new year, new journey, just new everything, And so I did it in the first week of January, I believe. And that was the time. That was it. It was time.
January 2025.
That is it.
This
Yeah.
has been your year.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, a few years ago, we connected because I had given this talk and I had talked a little bit about time wealth, and you have heard about the concept before, but when I spoke about it, we really connected at that on that, and you came up to me and you're like, that really resonates with
It
me.
did.
What
Yes.
does that concept of time wealth mean to you?
First of all, when you said it, Lysandra, it turned on a light bulb in my mind, right? When you have all these thoughts and these ideas as to who you are and what you like and what your values are and what you really believe in, you have a lot of these things floating around. Certainly, I did, and I still do sometimes. You have all these thoughts and ideas, but you haven't given it a description yet,
Mm,
right? And when I heard it, that was the moment that I was able to give all my thoughts a description.
mm,
What I really wanted for myself is the ability to do what I want to do with my time. I
mm,
want to do meaningful work, but I also don't want to work all the time. I also want to spend time with my family, with my children, particularly because you have such little time on this earth to influence these little beings, that's coming into the world or that's in the world. And I want to be able to invest time in that. I want to invest time in doing the things that I'd like to do outside of work as well. And when I want to travel, I always said, Lysandra, and I think that's one of the things that connected both of us as well. I want to take August off and I want to take December off. And really, my body tells me I should take them off at that time, right? And so that's what I wanted for myself. And when I heard you say time wealth, I'm like, that's it. That's my goal forever and ever. Amen. That is it.
Yes, and for me, it was about owning your time, having autonomy over your time, not someone else owning your time and requiring time commitments of you that don't align with how you wanted to spend your time and allocate your
Absolutely.
time. So,
Yeah,
yeah, a lot of that for me was about just ownership of my labor and my time.
absolutely. I love it. Thank you for even thinking of it and saying it when you did. It was the right time.
Yeah. So that gives a little hint that we've actually known each other for quite a long time, Fel.
Yes.
We actually first met in 2014 when you joined the Branson Center as part of my second cohort of entrepreneurs, my second cohort after I started working there in 2013. So you had just launched a fresh food delivery business and
Yeah,
were still working full time. And that wasn't a one-off. You later launched your coaching work while you were working full time as well. But
absolutely.
this thread of entrepreneurship has always been woven into your path. So, what was behind that?
So, so the fresh food business was just one of many, right? I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's what I am. And I was born, I think that's how I was socialized. That's my parents are entrepreneurs, my brother is an entrepreneur. And so that's what I know. I'm the only person in my nuclear family that went the corporate route. Everybody else are, they own their own business and they're doing their own thing, which is amazing. So it's always been in my spirit to be that. So yes, I had Lysandra, about the fresh food business, but I also did events planning. I also had a wedding dress rental business.
Wow.
So many things, right? And whenever I think there is a need, and I can identify that need and that need resonates with me, I immediately start thinking how I can solve that. So it's a part of there are two things that's working there.
Mhm.
One, my need and my ability to solve, right? I by nature, that's what I want to do, help people solve problems. Right? The second thing is being able to resonate with why people want to solve a particular problem.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't realize that that's what coaches did. Right? And so my being was always kind of had the idea or the what is it, the gift, right? Of coaching for a while. And so when coaching was introduced to me, I went kicking and screaming because I didn't know what was good for me, right? I went kicking and screaming, but when I realized what it was, and also realized that when I learned what it was, it gave me narrative. I was
Mhm.
able to describe myself.
Yeah.
I was able to describe the person I've always been.
That really reminds me of some of the testimonials that we get where people say, "Oh, I thought I signed up to a program to learn about my career or learn about my being a leader, but what I actually got from it was myself. I
Yes, well,
learned about me, and
yeah,
that's something that I didn't expect. And
yeah,
that is what coaching does. It
yeah.
gives you back to yourself."
Yes. Oh, that's beautifully said. I think there is magic and a miracle in learning who you are. And many of us believe we know who we are, right? We are hard workers, and the words that we give ourselves, I believe, is what society give us to give ourselves, right? We're hard workers, we stay late, right? You can always depend on me to come and show up on time. You can, I'm really great technically. And it's one of the things that when you ask people what they do, they immediately will say, this is my job description,
Hmm.
right? Because that's the narrative that the world give us to use.
Yeah.
The truth is when you truly, truly understand who you are at the core and what you truly believe in at the core, it makes It makes it easier to be deliberate about the choices you make.
So, how did you transition from being coached to now becoming a coach?
I'll tell you the truth. It's all about in the doing. Um, it's uh, it's deciding to do it. My very first coaching activity was a group coaching activity. It was my first one. It was about starting the year and knowing your purpose, right? I started off as a purpose and career coach after I did my coaching certification.
But that's what I mean. How did you go from
Yes.
client to deciding to now do this coaching certification and pursue coaching as a path?
Well, okay. So one, I knew what coaching was. I now know I want to do this, right? And I start seeking out information. And
Mm.
that's important. So I started to seek out information. And when I learned what it took to be a coach in terms of financially, I'm like, oh boy, I cannot afford this, right? I have two children in prep school. I have mortgages to pay. I have a car note to pay. This is too much. What am I going to do? But there's just like a burning desire that I can and I should be doing this. And I feel like if God gives you that burning desire, that He will make a way,
Mm.
right? And so I continue doing my search. And then one day I got up and it's almost that small voice that says, why don't you look for a scholarship? Somehow, and it seems simple enough, right? Like, duh, you can't afford it. Look for a scholarship, right? It just did not, based on where I was mentally, it just did not dawn on me that that was an option for me.
Yeah.
And this is months later. This is maybe 6 months into seeking out information, right? So a good while. Um,
So, but I
I,
want to interject because there's there's a real key point there. You were dragged kicking and screaming
I
into
was.
getting coached, and then something shifted to make you want to seek out information to become a coach. What
Okay.
was that shift?
It was the experience.
Okay.
It was when so I did a big group coaching session in Miami with a bunch of people, and it was 3 days and it was intense. So it's twofold. So I'll tell you the first fold. It was intense, right? And as I said, I went kicking and screaming. Um, but when I experienced the transformation in myself,
Mm.
when I experienced blind spots, so I call them my blind spots, they're here. When I experienced the blind spot coming into full focus for me after that session, that's when I knew. And then after that, Lysandra, maybe three different persons after that mentioned to me, you should be a coach. And without being prompted, I didn't ask for anybody's opinions, but they gave it to me and it just kept coming back. Fel, this is something that you should be doing. This is something that you should be doing. So the more I understood who I was, the more I interacted with people because I did it naturally, right? The more I wanted to do it.
Mhm.
And so that is where now seeking out the scholarship and starting the certification journey started.
Mhm. So
Mhm.
that makes a lot of sense. So I want to juxtapose that coaching journey beside the corporate journey a little bit more because you haven't really told us what were you even doing in corporate? What
Mm.
field were you in? How come you were in it so long? Did you love what you did? Like, what was that corporate journey like while you were going through all these
All of it.
entrepreneurial endeavors, while you were getting coached and wanting to become a coach? What did that corporate side look like?
So I ended corporate life as a marketing manager for a
Mm.
financial institution in Jamaica. But I didn't start there. I actually started in beverages. I worked for fast moving commodities early in my career, which was amazing, right? Gave me opportunities to travel all over the world. Loved it and gave me opportunities to grow, right? And when I look back, I was coaching lots of people during that time as well. That was just my natural way of being. But then I went into finance. I went into marketing and finance. It was a little bit more, a lot more stable. I didn't have to travel as much because now I'm starting a family and so on. And I did marketing for an extraordinary financial institution for 16 years.
Wow. Yeah.
My initial goal was 5 years. Right? And I ended up there for 16 years, a great culture. And I love that. And I enjoyed marketing. So you
Mm.
asked what was happening. How do I now match that up against this coaching? So as I learned more about coaching and I started to embody coaching more, um, my love for marketing started to change, right?
Mm.
It
Mhm.
started to change. But because of who I am, and I really want to perform in my role that I'm in, I started to find ways in which I could incorporate coaching in my role. How did you do that, Fel?
Yeah.
Well, um, marketing is an emotional, it's a way to emotionally connect with people. And that's a gift that I have, right? To be able to understand a need and deliver something that resonate with the person you are communicating to, right? And that is a gift that it's unique, it's wonderful. If you have it as a marketer, it's amazing, but I started to use it now more and more. So one of the things I can do with my eyes closed is execution, right?
Mm.
And if you've been to any one of my execution, you already feel connected emotionally when you come into the room. And that is me. I
Mm.
use the type of words that I know resonate with people. I use the music that resonates with people. I use the themes and the workbooks and the speakers. That is a part. So I'm not just putting together something pretty. I'm putting something together that really connects with you at your core.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started to really incorporate it in what I did every day,
Yeah.
and that was great. I love that.
That's so interesting, though. So, even though you were able to incorporate coaching into marketing, the more you studied coaching, delivered coaching, were in that world, the more your love of marketing started to shift, right?
Yes.
And that duality is usually what spurs people to make that choice because they feel like they're being pulled in different directions, but the pull towards this thing that is so resonant is
Yes.
so great that you
So
have to
strong.
move away from the stability of the corporate role. So, what does the other side of that decision look like emotionally? When you left, what did you feel?
Oh boy. First of all, you feel like I felt like panicking and running. Like, should I panic and run? Should I just stay in place, be comfortable with my salary that I am sure to get every single month at the same date every month? I can cover all my expenses, and I'm good. It's safe. Or should I walk into something that's extraordinary and that has been calling me for a very long time, and that is my purpose and my passion? And the choice was easy. It was easy. Let me tell you why it was easy. One of the reasons that made it hard to balance both, because what I want to say and be very clear about, a side hustle is not a hobby.
That's for sure.
It's not a hobby. Why? Because if you do it well, more people want more of it, right? And then trying to juggle coaching for me and corporate life and marketing work for me was really hard. It was hard mentally because you had to switch on and switch off. That's something that nobody tells you about, right? So if you are working as a marketer and you're doing all the great corporate stuff, and then you have to come home and switch that off, it's mentally exhausting, And so I started to feel that. I started to feel that. And so when I really made the decision to say, okay, Fel, we're doing this, the benefit of that is that I would not feel exhausted anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get that, but when I made the decision in 2019 to leave my role as CEO and go full time into Soul Career, I felt so much anxiety. Um,
Mhm.
it wasn't relief that I felt, it wasn't freedom that I felt, it wasn't ease
Mm.
that I felt. It was anxiety about money, of course, which is
Yes.
a big anxiety about the leaving the stability behind. And then the world just went crazy with the pandemic, right
Mhm.
as I had made that decision. And I felt anxiety about, oh my gosh, did I just ruin my life forever? Trying to launch a business in the pandemic. And then after that, I felt a lot of ups and downs, just so much fulfillment building something that was mine, but also having to learn sales, which I never had to
Mm.
learn how to sell before,
Yes.
having to hire a team, having to rehire a team as things change on the team, building products, marketing, the whole works. You're stretched in so many directions. You feel so proud, you feel so fulfilled, you feel so scared. So, what is the range of emotions? Because you're so much closer to that decision point than I am. What's the
Yeah.
range of emotions that you feel?
You're right. So scared is a good one, because every month doesn't look the same,
Yeah.
you know. Some months they're great. Say, for example, when I left corporate, the moment I resigned from my job, the next 3 months became packed with opportunities. Like I was training every week, I was speaking, I had coaching clients. It just was like, if this is going to be it, I am good. Right. And then month four, nothing, like crickets. And
That's
that
the real, that is reality, right?
that is the scary part. Like, how am I this month? I will have to pay my bills, or I'm going to have to defer something, or, I have to have that conversation with my partner. Like, what are we going to do this month? And what does next month look like? Because I don't know either. Right. And that's a reality, I think, in service business and certainly in coaching is no, you don't necessarily have 1 year booked of clients, and that's scary because you have to fund your life. And I now have a life that is settled. We have to pay tuitions, we have to buy books, we have to pay a mortgage, we have to. These things must be done. And so yes, the financial part is hard. The other thing that still sits with me is feeling useful.
Mhm.
Sometimes because I've been in corporate for so long, I always had something that I'm working on. Always, 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 right? And that created that habit that made me always want, even now, when I'm not doing anything, I'm like, I have to find something to do, right? And so that's one of the things that I think I still kind of battle through is being okay with not having something sometimes, because that's really what you wanted, right, Phil? I wanted to not always be on and always be working, right? So feeling useful is one of the things that I battle with as well. So the financial part, big, 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 still is. I will never say to anyone that it's going to be peaches and roses. But I just have to be strategic. Who do I align myself with? What do I do each time to ensure that I have enough?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said about filling the time. Yeah, it's one thing that I had because Soul Career was thought of as a business from the very beginning, meaning we wanted had to have multiple products, multiple business lines, etc. It was built out more than a coaching company, but a proper training company with a lot of infrastructure. But
Right.
where I really resonate with what you said is I got to the point where I started thinking, is my the rest of my career going to be workshops and trainings and
Yeah.
consultations and coaching? Can
Yeah.
you make a full career out of those activities? Um, so that was something I battled with around year 3 or year 4, where what was that career looking like and how would I shape it into
Mm,
something that felt like more than workshops and trainings and coaching?
mhm,
Have you
mhm.
ever had that thought? You might be too early in the process.
Right. I think it's early for me because right now I'm still, I'm still trying to define all
Hmm.
of this, you know? And so maybe when you figure it out, Lissandra, you can tell me.
I'm starting to figure it out because what's happening now with coaching is that it's being picked up by McKinsey and Ernst and Young, and these big corporate consulting firms are now building out whole coaching arms
Yeah.
as a service, and it's becoming more professionalized through the International Coaching Federation and other bodies. So the career path itself is changing as I move forward in it, and it's giving me some insight into what that career path looks like. But a
Mhm.
couple of years ago, I was like, what's next? How
Yeah.
do I move up? Where do I go from here?
Yeah. Yeah. And most certainly, I think if that's your desire,
Mhm.
then you have to define it. You
Yeah.
have to be able to find it, you know? So yeah, I'm right behind you.
Well, that brings us to you joining Soul Career, right?
Yes.
Probably around month 4 when you were like, okay, do, what do I do? I have time. I called you and I'm like, oh my God, I need a coach. I'm pregnant. Beatrice is moving back to Europe. We need someone who can invigorate and bring their life and energy back into the company. So, what were you thinking when I called you with this opportunity?
But I remember exactly where I was when you called. I no longer had my company phone, which is where your number is stored. So when it came up, I was on my way to I think pick up my daughter at swimming or something, right? My usual 2 o'clock activity. And I see the number come up and I'm like, who is this? So when I answered, I realized it was your voice. And you said, as you said, we're looking for someone. And it was easy. And if you could remember when you asked, I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And so the backstory to that really is, I think when you just started, Lisandro, how long ago was that? 6 years? 7 years?
5 years ago.
5 years ago, when you just started, you were looking for a team.
Yes.
And at that point in time, I was at my stage of, I need to leave. Right? And of course, I am looking for a safe exit. Right? That's what we do, right? We try to find safe exits out. So, and when I saw the opportunity, I applied. I didn't get through at the time, but it's so good. It's amazing how God works things out all the time, right?
Let me say, it came down to Felecia and Beatrice. We
Wow.
had these applications for, I put this post on LinkedIn looking for a leadership coach, and the final 2 were Felecia and Beatrice, and we could only choose one. And at the time, Beatrice was ICF certified and all
Oh.
these things that I wasn't, and I wanted to learn about. So that was the deciding factor, but it was so close 5 years ago.
And look at
5
where
years
we are
later.
now.
Yeah, look where we are now. But continue, continue.
Yes. So of course, when that opportunity came in and I applied and I didn't get through, I thought to myself, okay, I mean, this is a safe route. It would be a great exit. I'm a part of something that is happening. I can help it to grow and so on, but it didn't work out. And then so when you call me, I said, this is so serendipitous. This is a yes, yes. When do you want me to start? Tomorrow?
Wow.
So,
Timing.
Yeah, no, the timing was right. And I'll tell you why it's right, Lisandra. So I like working in processes that have been created. That's my natural way of operating. I thrive in. So you have the executive program, and there's a process. And I don't know if you realize by now, like once there's a process, I can document this process and I will follow that process, right? And so the timing was great because you already have this process nicely done. And I think I've complimented you 600 times on that already. And so, yeah, and I love the more I work with you and I work with your product, the more I realize it aligns with my own values.
Mhm.
The people part of it, the ability to create your own footprint. I am that person. If you put me in someplace, I'm gonna shine in it. That's what I do, right? And so I love that. I love that there's a process and there's a process I can grow in.
Yeah.
So yes, it was an easy yes. I really wanted to, and I really wanted to work with you. Like you said earlier, we we did Bronson Center entrepreneurship together how many years ago. I have connected with you through different events that you've spoken at and so on for me. And so being here at this point, in Soul Career, something that you have just poured your sweat and blood into, I think it was a nice fit, and I'm happy to be a part of the team.
Yes, we are so happy to have you because the energy that you bring is just so aligned. You mentioned something when you're working in the product and you can feel the product that we've built
Yes.
because it's imbued with soul. That word soul is in everything that we've built. And definitely my blood, sweat, and tears are in there as well. But I think when you're on the outside, when you haven't yet become a client of Soul Career, you think, oh, it's just another coaching company, one-on-one or group coaching. But
Yeah.
actually, there's just so much infrastructure that's built to make or every one of our clients have this seamless journey that feels very custom, but it's actually very backed by these systems and these
Absolutely.
processes. So people are always shocked at the infrastructure and architecture that's behind the products that we've developed, which makes me really proud. And we have to
Yeah,
spread that word about what
you
we've
should
done.
be. You should
Yeah.
be proud.
So I have one last question for you.
Okay.
The title of this series in the podcast is called Leadership in Transition. And this year, you made a huge transition out of corporate into full-time coaching and working with Soul Career as well. How did you lead yourself in that transition?
So, wow, that's a great question. How did I lead myself? So I had to talk to myself a bit. So I had to coach myself a lot, right? And of course, coaching is a part of leadership. I had to coach myself into recognizing, where I was and where I want to get to, and what it will take to get there. I had to hold myself accountable a lot. I had to lean on people to hold me accountable as well. You know, during the transition when I hadn't made the decision yet, I had to ensure that I was putting in the work. Honestly, the opportunities that came when and even keep coming now, is because of the connections that I've made before and because of the work that I've put in before, you know? And so even though I'm not blasting all over social media, hey, call me, or I'm not sending out proposals, people do reach out and ask me to come do their training, do their coaching for them, and so on. And so I had to remind myself that being credible, putting in the work is still very important. right? I have to lead myself every single day. I'm still leading myself every day. So yeah.
That's right. Yes. So we all entrepreneurs, all people that are out on their own have to do that.
Yes.
When you're not in this structure anymore. So, if I were to summarize what you said, you had to coach yourself a lot through the
Mhm.
process.
Mhm.
You had to hold yourself accountable and find people who could help you hold yourself accountable. You
Absolutely.
had to put in the work, not just learning and going through a certification program, but also building connections, building partnerships, and those partnerships are what are sustaining you right now, when you're out on your own. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that is leadership right
Yeah,
there.
that
Ab-
is it.
We always say you have to lead yourself first before you can lead others. So that was beautiful. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, Felecia, thank you so much for sharing your story. You didn't just leave something behind when you left corporate, you actually stepped into a fuller version of yourself. And
Mm.
now you're helping other people do the same thing. So, to our listeners, if you're standing at your own edge right now, wondering whether it's time to leap, I hope this conversation reminds you that transition isn't a detour, it's part of the path. This has been part 2 of our Leadership in Transition series. In our final episode in this series, I'll be sharing my own story of transitions that I've been making this year and what leadership has looked like for me through all these transitions. And until then, please stay curious, stay courageous, and as always, thank you for listening.